The smell of roasted chicken filled the air, mingling with the faintest hint of rosemary from the garden outside. I stood in the kitchen, eyeing the silver serving dish on the center of the dining table. It gleamed under the soft golden glow of the hanging lights. My heart raced as I recalled the last family gathering, which had turned into a screaming match over the inheritance. I could still hear the echo of their voices clashing, each syllable loaded with bitterness. My parents had skipped the usual niceties, tossing around words like betrayed and favored as if they were confetti. I clenched my hands around the counter, feeling the cool granite against my palms. I would not let them have that kind of power over me again. "Sister, is that chicken ready? Because I am starving." My brother's voice cut through my thoughts, dripping with the confidence he usually flaunted. I turned to see him leaning casually against the doorframe, arms crossed, his usual cocky grin plastered on his face. "Or are you too busy thinking about how to ruin the mood tonight?" I shot him a glare, my brow furrowed in irritation. "This is not about you and your empty stomach, brother. We all bear this heavy tension because of what happened last month, and you act like it is one big joke." The words came out sharper than I intended, but I couldn't help it. My chest tightened just thinking about the looming storm of unresolved issues hanging over our family like an uninvited guest. "What are we going to do? Laugh it off?" He laughed, throwing his head back. His carefree demeanor grated on my nerves. "Come on, it is just the reading of the will. It could go well. Or not. Either way, we get some of grandfather's money, right? I mean, I certainly won't turn down my cut. If mom and dad prefer to cut you off, that is their loss." "Do not start with me," I shot back. "You know that this inheritance is the absolute last thing I care about." The truth was, it was not the money I cared about. It was the principle of what it represented. It underscored the division between us, the favoritism that had given him a secure place in our parents' hearts, while I often felt like an afterthought. My stomach twisted with irritation, and the metallic taste of anger lingered at the back of my throat. His laughter faded, replaced with a notable shift in his demeanor. "You think so? You might not feel that way when you see the number on that check." I wanted to retort, to tell him money could not buy love, something our family desperately needed, but the words froze in my mouth. I could feel my voice tremble and feared it would betray my emotions. "Oh, stop it," a voice chimed in from behind him. My sister stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "This is not the time to joke about it. We all know the way they feel about you, brother." She folded her arms across her chest, her poise steady, yet I sensed her tension bubbling just beneath the surface. "This is about more than just a will reading." "Touchy," he mocked, rolling his eyes. "I just want to eat some dinner without hearing the sweet sounds of betrayal ringing in my ears." "No one is betraying you, brother. They chose you over me." My voice came high-pitched, and I regretted it as I watched his smile stiffen. "You are the golden child. Do not act like you do not know it." There it was again, the simmering resentment that had built for years, unleashed in the form of confrontation. I felt the heat rising in my cheeks as I stood my ground. "Girls, enough!" My mother's voice rang through the kitchen as she swept into the room, wiping her hands on a towel. She took a moment to observe the charged atmosphere before crossing the space to put herself between us. "Do not let this evening end in fighting. We need to present a united front. We are family, after all." The shine of authority glittered in her gaze, but I could see the unsteadiness behind it. "Exactly, mother," my sister chimed in, frustration creeping into her tone. "A united front, but we all know this reading will tear us apart even more." My sister's voice cracked slightly, betraying her uncertainty. "I do not want to fight with our parents, but what they did was unfair. They demanded we come here and pretend everything is fine. It is about all of us." "Not just you two," my brother added dismissively, shrugging off the mounting tension. "There are bigger problems than our inheritance, especially when it comes to mom and dad favoring you." My voice cut him off, practically erupting, the tension flowing out as if I unpinned a tightly wound spring. "They handed you the keys to everything they had while continuously telling me how I was just not good enough. Talk about unfair. Let's have that conversation instead." "That is not true, and you know it," my mother interjected, her hands trembling slightly as they clutched the dish towel tightly. I spotted the sadness in her eyes, a flash of something that made my resolve falter. "But it is true," I returned, slightly more subdued but no less intense. "You act like I am the invisible one, just waiting in the shadows while father praises my brother for every little thing he does." My father's voice joined the fray as he walked into the kitchen, rubbing his neck. "What is going on? Why is everyone raising their voices?" His brow furrowed as he glanced over each of us, trying to gauge the escalating situation. I could sense the tension brew among the voices in the room. How had it come to this? "This is about the will reading," my mother said cautiously, choosing her words carefully. "We do not have to fight about this. We only need to share our feelings." Feelings. The word hung in the air, laden with irony. It was almost laughable how they could let their greed twist every sentiment. Feelings? Is that all you care about? I could feel my heart race. Because I feel neglected, I feel used. And yet here we are, ready to pretend to be one big happy family over some money. None of it is just money. My father's tone was thunderous, a storm brewing in his darkened expression. "This is about what we built as a family." The heat of his frustration washed over me, and I recoiled slightly. "What you built?" I retorted, anger bubbling up inside me like a boiling pot. "You meant what you built for brother over what you did for the rest of us. You think this is easy for me," he lashed back, voice rising now, eyes flashing. "I never wanted any of this to come between us. I'm proud of all of you. You take this for granted. You know who you chose," my sister blurted, fingers trembling as she pointed toward my brother, who stood there looking innocently smirking as if he were above the fray. "He's done nothing to deserve it," I spat, and the words hung heavy in the air as every pair of eyes turned toward my brother, his smile vanishing in an instant. The silence grew thick, palatable, a torrent threatening to break free when the doorbell chimed through the house. It felt like a timely intervention. My brother reached to swing open the door, his flat expression replaced with surprise. "What the?" His eyes widened as the door swung open, revealing my grandfather standing tall on the threshold. He was a powerful figure even at his age, clearly not someone to mess with. It was a rare occurrence for him to drop by unannounced, and the disapproval emanating from him filled the room like a thick fog, instantly wiping the bickering from everyone's minds. As my grandfather stepped inside, the air shifted completely. "What is this chaos? What are you all bickering about?" His voice had a steely edge to it, demanding respect and attention. "Grandfather," my father said, tone instantly shifting to one of reverence. "We were just discussing some family matters." "Is that what you call it?" His voice boomed, elder authority washing over us. "It sounds more like disagreement over what should have been discussed long ago. You should all know better than to fight in my house." I opened my mouth to argue that we all had a right to express how we felt, but as his piercing gaze landed on me, I faltered. "You," he said, pointing straight at me, "you need to learn the value of family, young one. This feud over money is childish. It is your parents' blessing that matters more than the numbers on a piece of paper. Grandfather, we have to talk about the will." I finally found my voice, feeling the heat rise again, this time in my chest. "This is not just an argument, it is urgent. Things were left undone that need to be fixed before it is too late." But my grandfather remained unfazed. "There will be discussions when the time is right in my presence. Until then, you need to put your grievances aside. Think of what this is doing to the family name." As he turned away from me, steam bubbling in my chest, my heart began a race. I felt betrayed in a different way now. The accusation stung more than the conflict among us. It felt as if he was choosing my parents' side. Everything I wanted to address felt knocked to the ground, swept beneath the rug like dust. "Whatever," I said, an exasperated breath escaping my lips, but frustration rippled through my voice instead. "Things remain unfixed, and I refuse to pretend that I am okay with you all placing money above everything else." I stormed out of the kitchen, slamming the door behind me. The echo reverberated in my ears, and I suddenly felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I needed to gather my thoughts, find clarity before the inevitable discussion opened a chasm too big to cross. As I pressed my forehead against the cool surface of the door nearby, my thoughts spiraled relentlessly. What was I to do now? Could there be a secret inheritance? Something that no one knew about? Something that could change this family dynamic? As I stood there, a flicker of determination sparked in me. I would not go down without a fight this time. I would not let their ignorance get the best of me anymore. I could not allow them to keep pretending all was well in our shattered family. The plan began to form in my mind as I slowly gathered the pieces. Barely aware of the laughter and sibling antics behind me as the air grew heavy with tension, those whispers echoed in my heart. Whatever it took, I would unveil the truth. Because in this game of apathy cloaked as love, I was determined to seize my piece of the future locked away in shadows, and no one would sway me from my path to justice. I sat at the old wooden dining table, the familiar worn surface coated with the faint marks of years of meals shared and arguments fought. It felt like a battleground, especially now as I stared down the half-eaten roast in front of me, feeling the weight of so many unspoken words hanging thick in the air. The smell of rosemary and garlic wafted through the slightly open kitchen door, mingling with the tense energy that had seeped into our house like a dark cloud. My mother was at the stove, her back turned to me, her movements brisk and efficient as she dished out mashed potatoes, living in her own little world while everything crumbled around us. There was an awkward silence that lingered, filled with the clinks of cutlery and the sound of my brother chewing too loudly, completely oblivious to the storm brewing in our home. I watched him from across the table, wondering how he could eat so easily while I felt as if my insides were twisting into knots. My father spoiled every meal and every moment with his gruffness that evening, his dark eyes darting between my brother and me, weighing us, judging us as if we were pieces on a chessboard. "Ella," he finally said, breaking the silence. His voice was grating, a harsh scrape against my frayed nerves. "Are you planning to speak today or just sit there looking like a ghost?" I wanted to throw my fork down and tell him that it was hard to engage with a family that felt more foreign than familiar. Instead, I forced a small smile and replied, "I am just thinking." My mother turned slightly, her brow furrowing in concern, but she quickly masked it with a tight smile. "Well, thinking is good, but you also need to eat, sweetheart. You're getting too skinny," she replied, her voice softening. Behind the tenderness, I sensed the underlying tension as she tried to keep the peace, like a fragile vase balancing on the edge of a shelf. I didn't feel skinny. I felt like I was being crushed under the weight of secrets. My sister had decided to join us for dinner unexpectedly. She had always been the favored child, with her bright smile and bubbly personality that could light up the darkest of rooms. In our family, she was the golden girl. I felt a pang of jealousy as I watched her effortlessly engage my father in conversation, her laugh breaking through the tension like sunlight after a storm. "So, Dad, did you hear about the promotion I might get?" she asked, leaning in slightly, her hair catching the overhead light, shimmering in the glow. "About time this company recognized your talent," my father grunted, trying to suppress a proud smirk, though I could see it was impossible for him. I felt my heart racing as I realized this was not just another dinner. This was a moment for her to shine, and suddenly I felt invisible, like wallpaper peeling away from the walls. "What about you, Ella? Any updates on your job situation?" My father turned to me now, and I felt all eyes on me like a spotlight on stage. I hesitated, knowing that I had yet to find a job after graduation. "Still looking," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. The silence that followed felt like a weight pressing down on me. My brother attempted to break it with a nervous laugh, but it only made it worse. "Well, maybe you can just ask Dad for a loan. He loves doing that," he smirked, his tone mocking. I could feel my face heat with anger. "I don't want a loan. I would rather earn my way like anyone else." My words came out sharper than intended, and I caught my mother's shocked expression before she quickly went back to her cooking, pretending not to hear the rising tension. "Come on, Ella, it was a joke," my brother waved dismissively. "Lighten up. You know that money can solve a lot of problems." He shot me a look that was both condescending and smug, the kind that only family can give. I felt betrayed by that glib remark. "Sure, you have always gotten your way, haven't you?" "That is so easy for you to say when you do not have to worry about money," I said bitterly, a lump forming in my throat as the emotions surged. My brother rolled his eyes, the picture of insensitivity. "Not all of us can afford to live in fantasy land, Ella," he snapped back, eyes flashing with annoyance. I could feel the tension thickening, the air in the room swirling like a tornado about to unleash its fury. It was always the same, the unequal treatment. The night I found out about the trust fund my parents had set up for my brother and sister, while they cut me out completely. I had never expected anything much from my parents, but knowing how they supported my siblings while leaving me to fend for myself made my heart ache. I took a deep breath, the familiar taste of betrayal rising in my throat. "I am not going to sit here pretending everything is perfect when clearly it is not," I said, my hands shaking slightly on the table. The room fell silent, heavy with the weight of my confession. I could feel my sister's gaze boring into me, her smile slipping as she realized that my words held more truth than she cared to acknowledge. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice low, almost a whisper. I met her eyes and saw a flash of concern mingled with anger. "You know exactly what I mean. The favoritism, the way you both always seem to be Daddy's little darlings. It is painful to watch." "Ella, don't be dramatic," my sister shot back, her voice laced with irritation. But I could see the cracks in her composure, the unease. Dramatic! You call this dramatic? You two are just blind to what is happening. Dad has demanded that I never get the trust fund. He has cut me off. I could hear the crack in my own voice as I said it, my heart echoing every word. My mother finally turned around, her face pale and drawn, shock etched across her features. What do you mean by cut off? Her question hovered in the air, sharp and pointed, and suddenly it was as if I had unleashed a floodgate. My brother sat up, the smugness gone from his face. You cannot be serious. You all act as if I do not exist. What if I had a chance? The same chance to succeed as you? I am tired of feeling so betrayed. My chest tightened as I let the truth tumble out in a jumble of raw emotion. My sister's face went pale as realization swept over her. I had never spoken like this before, and I could see the shock and discomfort ripple through the table. But Dad loves us all the same, she tried, her voice barely above a whisper, but her eyes betrayed her. I knew then that my words had managed to pierce through the comfortable lies we had built around ourselves. Loves us all the same? No, you get support. Generosity. I don't want a handout, but I also don't want to be ignored because I chose a different path. I slammed my hand against the table, feeling the vibrations rattling through the worn wood. My mother gasped, gripping the edge of the counter as if to steady herself. Ella, please calm down, she pleaded, desperation creeping into her tone. You do not understand. Your father is only trying to protect our family's legacy. Protect what? A legacy that only matters to you guys. I shook my head in disbelief, feeling the walls closing around me, suffocating under expectations. I am not part of this family. Then why do I have to play along? Enough! My father's voice erupted, cutting through the chaos like a knife. Everyone froze, the atmosphere electric with tension. He rose from his chair, the scraping sound of wood against wood amplifying the dread that hung in the air. You need to remember your place, Ella. We look out for our own. There it was again, the chilling reminder of my supposed inferiority, the heavy weight of favoritism pressing down on me. My voice cracked, but I pushed through the pain. Look out for our own. Since when? You sold me down the river the moment you ignored my worth. In that moment, an unexpected silence fell over us, heavy and suffocating. Then, without thinking, I shot up from my chair, the legs screeching against the floor. I will not sit here and pretend like everything is fine when it is not. This family favors you, and I am done. My heart raced, and for the first time, the anger that had been boiling inside me felt justified. I could not continue this charade. Stepping back, I glared at each of them, my heart pounding in my chest. My brother's eyes flickered with uncertainty, while my sister's features seemed to melt into an expression of panic. My mother stood there, her hand pressed against her mouth, unsure of how to react, while my father's anger simmered beneath a veneer of control. I turned and stormed out of the room, the weight of their judgment left hanging in the air behind me. I needed to escape, to step away from the noise and confusion. I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing in the hallway. Outside, the evening breeze brushed against my skin, cool and refreshing. I took a deep breath, my heart racing in my chest, a mix of adrenaline and hope washing over me. I stared into the dusky horizon, the remnants of sunlight casting a fiery glow across the sky. I was done being the forgotten daughter. I had always thought I was the unseen shadow in this family, but in that moment, I felt a flicker of determination ignite within me. I would find my footing, show them that I deserved a place at the table. I would not take their favoritism any longer. As I stood there, feeling the warm air wrapping around me like a cloak, an unsettling realization hit me. What if I could use their own dismissals against them? What if instead of crumbling, I learned to rise? I needed to uncover the secrets that had been kept hidden, the unfairness that robbed me of my inheritance, my rightful place. I took one last deep breath and steeled myself for what was to come. I walked back inside, determination fueling my next move, ready to confront the truth and claim my place in this family. No matter what it took, I stood there in the living room, the soft hum of the overhead fans swinging shadows across the walls, like the memories that loomed over me. My stomach knotted tighter than the laces of my mother's old boots, that she had refused to let go of despite the tears they had seen. My brother's laughter echoed from the kitchen, a sound that had once brought warmth, but now felt like ice piercing through my chest. It had been 2 days since the will reading, and each tick of the clock acted as a reminder of how irreparably changed everything had become. I had been there when the lawyer pulled the crisp white paper from the envelope. My heart thudded as he read out loud the terms, the way my father's jaw clenched tight, and how my mother's face went pale when they heard who was getting what. It felt like a scene straight out of a bad reality show. I could still hear his voice, clear and unyielding. The family home will go to your brother, and Ella will receive the antique jewelry box worth $500. My heart dropped right then and there. Antiques. Jewelry. I could practically feel the dust covering a box that was already more than a century old, as if it meant anything compared to our family home, where I had shared countless memories with my parents and sister. A small fortune for my brother, a mere trinket for me. I wanted to scream, to confront them all about the unfairness of it. The injustice gnawed at me, making me feel small and unwanted in the very home I had grown up in. My brother was the golden child, always favored over me as if I didn't matter at all. I could feel the bitterness rising in my throat. "Hey, Ella!" My sister peeked her head in from the kitchen, her smile bright, yet there was an edge to it, like a blade concealed under a veil of sweetness. "Are you coming in for dinner? Mother is worried about you." My mouth opened slightly, a rush of emotions swirling, but nothing came out. What could I say? That the family I once knew felt like strangers. That every Thanksgiving reminded me of how I was always the one left behind. My sister tilted her head to the side, concern etching itself on her forehead. "Come on, it can't be that bad." "Right," I finally managed, pushing my shoulders back, unwilling to show her how much her words stung. "Because dinner is always the perfect time to talk about how nothing is fair." "Ella," my sister recoiled, her voice a mix of exasperation and disbelief. "You're overreacting. It is a family meal. Can we not bring up the will, just for once?" "Just for once," I murmured under my breath, my heart pounding with indignation. "So we should pretend everything is fine." "I don't want to fight," she replied, the corners of her mouth gently curving down as if she was trying to hold me in some semblance of peace. "Neither do I shot back, surprising even myself. I pushed past her, my heart racing as I strode into the dining area. The large oak table gleamed under the light, set perfectly, the smell of rosemary roasted chicken filling the air, mingling with the comforting scent of warm bread. But the moment I took my seat, a chill swept through me, cold as the space between us that had somehow grown larger. "I thought we agreed to keep things light tonight," my mother said, her voice tinged with weariness as she placed a steaming dish in front of my brother. The way she hovered over him like he was some precious gem made my skin crawl. I could feel resentment coiling around my heart. "Not everything has to be about you too," I shot back, unable to contain my frustration. "There's more to this family than just your favorites." My brother laughed, the sound grating against my nerves. "You really need to relax. It's just a box, Ella. You act as if they are handing over the moon." I felt my chest tighten. "A box that is worth $500 while you get our childhood home. If that doesn't scream unfairness, I don't know what does." My mother sighed, looking at me with a blend of pity and annoyance. "We have talked about this, Ella. Your brother's going to take care of the house and you will have the jewelry box." "You know what?" I nearly shouted, the betrayal flooding my voice. "You chose him over me. You always do. I just wanted to feel like I mattered, like I was worth more than some 200-year-old trinket." My words hung heavily in the air, the tension climbing as silence wrapped around us like a thick fog. My sister's eyes widened, and I could see the gesture she made with her hand to shush me, but it was too late. My heart raced, my breath coming in quick bursts as I locked eyes with my mother. The truth of it twisted like a knife in my gut. "I never wanted to choose anyone," my mother finally said, her voice trembling slightly, revealing her vulnerability. But it did nothing to ease the storm brewing inside me. I wanted to scream that she had chosen, that by giving my brother the house, she had made her choice clear all along. Before I could respond, my brother leaned back in his chair, eyes dancing with amusement. "It is not like the jewelry box is cursed or anything," he said, the smugness in his tone sending my anger through the roof. "Maybe you should just let it go. Besides, I can lend you some money or something. I mean, I wouldn't want you to feel left out." I clenched my fists tight under the table, skin begging to rip from the pressure of my nails digging in. "I don't want your pity or your money. I want to feel like I belong here. What is going on with you?" My brother shot back, feigning concern while masking a smirk. "You are acting so dramatic about this. Has the jewelry box really hurt your feelings that much?" A low simmering rage built in the pit of my stomach. My mother's eyes darted between us, unease reflecting in them as she sensed this was spiraling out of control. "Stop it, both of you," she snapped with authority, her voice slicing through the air. "We are family, for God's sake. We should support one another. but I was beyond support. My heart was in shambles, and every word that spilled from their mouths made the fractures deeper. Support, I echoed, disbelief coating my tone. You mean support for your golden boy while I get a slap on the wrist? Ella, please, my sister pleaded, attempting to mediate, her eyes wide with worry. Let's just enjoy dinner. You do not have to take it so personally. We all love you. Love, I dipped my chin, the sharpness in my voice cutting deeper. How can you call this love? The two of you keep trying to make me feel like I should be thankful for a box while letting the memory of this house slip through my fingers. The air crackled with anger and pain. I felt the heat rising to my face, my breaths growing shallow as tears threatened to spill. Maybe you should have thought about that before demanding the house all to yourself, my brother snorted, crossing his arms, the challenge in his stance boiling beneath the surface. You just act like you deserve more when you do not even keep in touch with us half the time. That's not fair. My hands shook as I bared my teeth, not caring about decorum anymore, the truth bubbling through my veins. You don't know anything about me. I have spent more time trying to connect than you ever bothered to. We all go through things, Ella. You are not the only one who has faced struggles. My mother's voice softened, but the underlying tone of condescension rubbed me raw. We all have roles in this family, and your brother's contributions are more worthy of reward. Contributions, I choked out, disbelief flooding my senses. Is that what you think of us? Your children's worth quantified by contributions, by how well we play your games. Ella, stop, my sister pleaded again, a pained expression crossing her face. Just stop with this. It does not have to end like this. No, I said, steel creeping into my voice. We cannot keep pretending. You know what? I am done being the good daughter while you all applaud his every move. I don't want to play this game anymore. With that, I stood abruptly, feeling the weight of the moment crash over me like an impending storm. My heart raced as the reality of my situation flooded in, each breath deeper than the last. The room was filled with silence, extended and fragile, much like the love we pretended bound us. I turned to leave, leaving behind the weight of my family's dysfunction, the clinking of plates and awkward whispers falling behind like ghosts in my wake. Where are you going? My sister's voice echoed through the air, filled with a mix of bewilderment and concern, a stark contrast to how my brother threw his head back laughing like he was watching a circus. You cannot just run away. That is cowardly. I turned and faced them both, the resolve building in me. Cowardly? Maybe, but I choose to be anything but suffocated. I refuse to be drowned in this ocean of your favoritism any longer. As I stormed out the door, I felt cracks under the weight of their gazes, each step pounding a firm determination into the ground beneath me. I was done being overlooked. As I slammed the door shut behind me, the sound echoing into the night, I did not look back. Instead, a fire ignited within me, and I knew deep down that I would find a way to reclaim what was stolen. Not just a house or a box, but my place in this family, my voice, the very essence of who I was meant to be. This time, I would no longer be silenced. I stood at the edge of the living room, my heart pounding as I watched my family gather around the dining table, the remnants of our lavish dinner scattered like forgotten dreams. The smell of roasted chicken lingered in the air, blending unnaturally with the tension that crackled between us. My mother had painted on her classic smile, the one that said everything was just fine, even as I could feel the unsaid words clawing at the back of my throat. My brother lounged back in his chair, arms crossed, as if waiting to see who would break first. The light flickered overhead, casting shadows that danced around us, emphasizing the rift that had formed since the reading of our grandfather's will. Can you believe it? My brother's voice broke the silence, smooth and mocking, filling the air with a thick layer of resentment. He actually left Ella the old cottage by the lake. What a joke! He chuckled, and I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment and anger. The old cottage was a faded symbol of our grandfather's love, or so I had thought. A place where summers were filled with laughter, where we had made memories. Now it felt like a thorn in my side, a constant reminder of unearned favoritism. Why are you making this into a joke? I shot back, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. You know how much the cottage means to me. I remembered the first time I had walked through its door, the smell of pine and the creak of the wooden floor beneath my feet. It had always felt like the only place where I could truly be myself. Means to you. My brother leaned forward, eyes narrowing as if he were trying to dissect my words. Means nothing to me. What do you think that old shack is worth? Maybe $40,000 if you're lucky? Good luck with that. You really think Grandpa intended for you to have it? No. He laughed again, the sound hard and bitter, like crushed glass. He just wanted to cut me out of everything, didn't he? I was frozen, my heart racing as I registered his words. It was more than just money. It was about the legacy, about feeling rejected and abandoned. My mother's eyes flickered between us, filled with unspoken concern. A part of me wanted her to step in to defend me. Instead, she looked away, her hands smoothing the tablecloth, avoiding the conflict brewing like a storm on the horizon. "You know that is not true," she finally said, her voice soft but firm. "Your grandfather valued hard work and honesty above everything. Ella is the one who spent summers maintaining that cottage, learning everything about it. You never cared." There was a brief moment, a sliver of hope, as I felt my mother's support wrap around me like a warm blanket, but it was quickly eclipsed by my brother's scoffing retort. "Whatever, Mother," he replied with a dismissive wave of his hand. "You act like Ella is the only one who can handle a little story from Grandpa. Do you really think he would take Ella over me if he were still alive? He chose that shack over me, and you know it." His voice rose, thick with indignation. "Is this how low we have fallen? Fighting over worthless property instead of family?" A chilling silence blanketed the room, and I felt as though the walls were closing in on me. My mother's expression shifted, a fleeting moment of guilt flitting across her features. Had my brother really believed that our grandfather had loved him less? "Stop it!" I burst out, the heat of my frustration boiling over. "This isn't about you, it never has been. This is about what Grandpa wanted, and you know he loved that cottage. He loved me despite what you keep saying." For once, the words came out stronger than I had intended, laced with a newfound determination. This was my moment. "Oh, please, spare me the theatrics," my brother sneered, a smirk playing on his lips. "You think being his favorite will give you some grand inheritance or something? You are just a shadow in his past. I mean, if nothing is wrong with this inheritance, why does it make you feel so bad, huh? Feel like you snatched something from me?" "Because I did. I took your chance to have that stupid old cottage," I hissed, fists clenching at my sides as I felt the flames of conflict ignite once more. "A chance that you never even appreciated. I loved that place. I cherished every visit with him, something you should acknowledge instead of mocking." My brother leaned back, a taunting glint in his eye. "Your stabbed conscience must be echoing in your head. What if he just left the cottage to prove a point about how he thought you could never stand for yourself without a handout?" His words sliced through the air, sharp and unforgiving, like a knife to my heart. I took a shaky breath, desperately clenching my teeth to keep from yelling. The deceit woven into his speech stung. "He left it to me because I was there for him," I said quietly, my voice trembling but resolute. "Can you honestly say you were? Or do you just want everything handed to you on a silver platter?" Before he could respond, my mother interjected, her tone rising above our confrontation. "Enough! This isn't how we handle family disputes. You both need to calm down and reflect on what is truly important." But I could see her hands were shaking, betraying her unease. My brother stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This whole dinner was ridiculous anyway. You all talk about family, but clearly that's all a lie. You've made it clear who you care for the most. But guess what? I refuse to just sit back and watch while Ella gets everything while I'm tossed aside." He stormed out of the room, leaving us in oppressive silence, the door slamming shut behind him. The air thickened with unspoken tension, and I turned to my mother, my heart sinking. "Why don't you say anything to him? I know that you feel it. We're in the middle of a twisted game, and I don't know how to play." I could feel tears welling up as I wiped them hastily away. "It's unfair. He thinks I stole that cottage from him as if it were money or a toy." "I am trying," she said softly, the slight tremor in her voice breaking me. "You both are blinded by your emotions. If things continue this way, it will only get worse." Her expression was pained, regret etched into the lines of her face. "Your grandfather wanted us to love each other." I swallowed hard, frustration mixing into a heavy knot in my stomach. "But it is so unfair. Maybe he was spoiled, but I deserve that cottage more. I earned it. I worked for it." My voice wavered slightly, uncertainty creeping in as I glimpsed my own reflection in my mother's eyes. "I know," she whispered, her gaze steadying on mine. "And I do believe that you deserve it. But your brother is your family too, even if he doesn't act like it." The compassion in her voice was a stark contrast to the bitterness floating like a cloud between us. "If we cannot come together and communicate, then this will spiral. We cannot let greed tear us apart over a piece of property that is just a representation of love." "I know," I echoed, a heavy sigh escaping my lips. "But how can I forgive when he treats me like an enemy? I don't want to be here if it means I will be at war with my family." My mother leaned closer, her presence warm and comforting. That is the challenge we all face. The loss of love can twist even the deepest connections. Please just think. Maybe there is a way to bridge this divide, to show him that you care despite everything. Find a way to make peace, to not let him win this battle. I nodded, feeling weighed down by her words. The determination I had felt moments earlier faded into doubt, but a flicker of courage remained. I will find a way, I murmured, resolved to seek justice for myself and restore balance to my family. The silence that hung in the air was stifling, yet I could sense a change, a quiet determination brewing within me. I knew the storm was far from over, and my heart ached knowing it would take more than words to mend our torn family ties. I would find a way to confront my brother and to show him why my inheritance was more than just a property, but a legacy rooted deep with love. As I glanced toward the door, freshly angered by my brother's words, I could almost hear his laughter ringing in my ears. Just in that moment, I had an idea, one that could change the entire game. I would create a video, documenting my thoughts and emotions, my struggle, my joy in the cottage, and the memories we had all built there. But I would not stop there. I would confront him. I needed proof of my connection to that place to defend it, to battle against the ridicule, and reveal the importance of legacy, love, and the bonds that should unite us rather than tear us apart. But just as I was about to speak, the heaviness in the air shifted again. The sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. I looked at my mother, wide-eyed, frozen with fear. Had he come back? I tightened my grip on my chair as the door creaked slightly open. A hand reached through the doorway, holding an envelope, brown and worn as if it had seen far too many years. There was a pause, an air of uncertainty before the door swung open fully. I found something. My brother's voice rang through the room, softer now, yet echoing with a dangerous note of hesitation. My heart sped up as I felt the ground shift once more beneath my feet. This was not the end. It was only just the beginning. I stood alone in the living room, the golden light of the setting sun casting long shadows across the floor as I looked out into the garden. The roses were in bloom, their sweet scent wafting through the open window, but all I could smell was the bitterness that had seeped into every corner of our family home. It was as if the walls had absorbed the secrets and lies, thickening the air until it was almost hard to breathe. Today was the day. My heart pounded in my chest as I felt a mix of dread and anticipation. I could hear the soft murmur of voices coming from the dining room where my family gathered, a quiet storm brewing beneath the surface. Just stay calm, I whispered to myself, brushing my fingers against the cool wood of the dining table, feeling the grain under my fingertips. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to ground myself in the reality of what was about to happen. In just a few moments, the discussions about the inheritance, the family estate, and the betrayal that lay just beneath the surface would come spilling out. The house was filled with an uneasy stillness, like the calm before a thunderstorm. I could hear the soft chime of my mother's laughter from the other room as she entertained my grandfather with one of her stories about her early days. That laughter, once a warm embrace, now felt like nails on a chalkboard. My brother was likely sitting there, acting as if everything was normal, while my sister leaned into her part, pretending to be the peacemaker. They never once thought about how I fit into their perfect little narrative, the one where my parents were the golden couple, my siblings were flawless, and I was the one left out, the black sheep. As I stepped into the dining room, the aroma of my mother's famous lasagna filled the air, tempting yet infuriating. My family sat around the table, my brother's head thrown back in laughter, my sister's eyes sparkling as she patted my mother's arm, both of them unaware, or perhaps uncaring of the turmoil raging inside me. I drew in a steadying breath, knowing that I would not let their enjoyment continue unchallenged. "Hey, everyone," I announced, my voice somehow coming out steadier than I felt. The laughter died down instantly, and their gazes shifted to me, curiosity intermingled with an undercurrent of tension. "I think we need to talk." My father looked up from his large wooden chair, arms crossed and brow furrowed. "What is it, Ella? We were just about to serve dinner." There was that familiar tone, the dismissive edge that made my chest tighten. The way he said my name always felt like a reprimand. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "This can't wait, not anymore." I looked directly at my siblings, my heart racing. I found something. The room stirred with whispers, the air thickening with unease. "What do you mean?" my sister asked, her tone a mixture of concern and annoyance. "I mean I found out about the will," I said, cutting through the pretenses. The one nobody bothered to mention to me. I could feel their eyes boring into me, scrutinizing my every move. It was in the office, beneath Dad's pile of old papers. What are you talking about? My brother leaned forward, eyebrows knitted together, his expression oscillating between disbelief and annoyance. You're just trying to stir up drama as usual. Something deep within me ignited, a spark I hadn't felt in ages. This is not drama. It is reality, I said, my voice rising in urgency. I found a letter, Dad. A letter that says you're leaving the Riverside property to my sister and brother, but nothing for me. The air thickened with tension, and my mother's face paled as she glanced between my siblings and me. That can't be right, she murmured, her hands trembling slightly on the table. It is, I insisted, my hands clammy and shaking as the atmosphere shifted. You've cut me out of everything, haven't you? After all these years, after everything I've sacrificed, you haunt me with your perfect family while the truth is, I do not belong. My heart raced as I watched the realization sink in, their expressions shifting from disbelief to something darker, guilt mixed with indifference. Ella, you're overreacting. My brother ran his hand through his hair, his voice laced with irritation. It's not what you think. What do you mean? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. I felt my legs shake beneath me. The anger surged hot and fierce. I have worked my entire life to be a part of this family. I've done everything you all asked, put aside my dreams for yours, and what do I get in return? Betrayed. Stop making this about you. My sister's voice was sharp, cutting through the fabric of my anger. Dad has his reasons. You don't understand how hard it is to maintain the estate. You can't just waltz in here and demand things. Her tone dripped with condescension, and I felt as though I had been slapped. Demand things? I echoed, my anger boiling over. You think I'm demanding what is rightfully mine. You think I chose to be left out unwanted. All those family dinners, the traditions, the moments. I thought we were in this together, but you've kept me on the outside looking in. I gestured wildly around the room, the emotions coiling tightly within me, flaring into an inferno of betrayal. You both chose each other over me. Ella, calm down, my mother said, her voice unsteady. She placed her hand on my arm, but I pulled away, feeling hotter than ever. I could sense the chaos swirling beneath the surface, like dark storm clouds gathering for a thunderous throwdown. I won't calm down, I shouted, frustration erupting. Not when you treat me like I do not exist. For years, you favored them, acting as if they are the only ones worthy of your attention. All I have ever wanted was a place in this family, but you've cut me down at every turn. Stop it. My brother slammed his palm against the table, rattling the dishes, causing everyone to flinch. You act like you are the victim here when you have been so self-centered. I froze, my breath catching in my throat as I struggled to rein in the fury pooling in my chest. I couldn't let them gaslight me. I was never self-centered. I didn't mind stepping aside. I did it to be a good daughter, a good sister. My voice trembled with suppressed emotion, but deep down, something broke free. But it seems that nobody wants to hear me. I have given up everything for this family, and in return I have lost myself. The silence that followed was deafening. The tension hung heavy, thick in the air like a suffocating blanket. I looked from my siblings to my parents, disbelief hardening my resolve. Betrayal etched into their faces was evident, revealing the cracks in our once seamless facade as everything began to collapse around us. Why don't you just hand over the property? I pushed, my voice a whisper now, laced with desperation. You have everything you need. Is it so hard to share just a little bit, to acknowledge my existence? We have worked hard for what we have. My father suddenly roared, his face turning an angry shade of red. I didn't give everything I've built to just anyone. The fierceness in his eyes knocked the wind out of me, but I refused to back down. You can't expect to be handed what you never put in the effort to earn. I swallowed hard, the sting of tears in my eyes. I have put in effort more than anyone knows. You just never cared to notice. My heart raced as his words landed like punches, each one more painful than the last. If you think this is a joke or a power play, then you have misunderstood me completely. I felt the warmth of rage defend my fragile heart as fire fueled my words. You've robbed me of my voice, of my stake in this family, and for what? Some twisted idea of fairness? That is enough. My mother interjected, her voice quaking slightly. She looked between my father and me, uncertainty shooting through her chest, the one warm light of her laughter replaced by shadows. We cannot have this kind of argument. This is not what we need. You're splitting the family apart. Maybe it is already split, I said quietly, my voice barely a whisper. I felt weightless, my heart pounding as uncertainty washed over me. I read the room, their faces revealing layers of unresolved hatred and denial. It was never about the house to me. I just wanted a place to belong, a piece of this legacy, but I see now I am simply a ghost that haunts the outskirts. With that, I turned, gripping the back of a chair as I made my exit. I didn't want to look back at the wreckage I had left behind, the tension swirling like a sudden storm, threatening to destroy everything in its path. I stepped outside, letting the cool evening breeze hit my face. I could still hear the faint sounds of conversation behind me, the resentful murmurings and half-hearted justifications. My heart was racing, part anger and part something else. Life. As I peeled back layers of pent-up sadness, I knew I could not let them defeat my spirit anymore. I had to control the narrative. I had to find a way to make my voice heard, to finally take back what was taken from me. And with that determination swelling inside me, I made my way toward the edge of the garden, the moonlight beginning to rise, illuminating my path forward into the unknown. A phone buzzed in my pocket, interrupting the silence. My heart skipped as I fished it out. When the screen lit up with a name that brought an entirely new layer of tension, my heart dropped. It was a familiar contact, someone from my past, mixed in with secrets I wasn't ready to unveil. I knew answering could change everything. I hesitated for only a moment before pressing the green button, a knot of anxiety twisting deep within. "Hello," I said, my voice wavering. If they were in touch now, I would find out why. As the truth unraveled, I felt an icy chill race down my spine. Little did I know, that call would set the stage for an even greater conflict. I stood there, the weight of familial betrayal still heavy on my chest. It was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning.